Welcome to the Cedric Podcast. I am Kimberly George, Cedric's Global Chief Brand Officer, and with me today is our resident guru on absence management. David, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hello everybody. My name is David Setzkorn. I'm Senior Vice President and Practice Leader for Cedric's Workforce Absence, overseeing compliance. My job is basically to lead a team of very talented individuals who pay attention to all the nuances with all of the federal, state, and local leave laws, statutory benefits, and international leave benefits so that Cedric can serve its clients.
And David, just real quick, I know we've had really an evolution of leave benefits. How are you thinking about that here in 2025? Are employers curating new benefits? What's happening?
Yeah, so, it's interesting. Benefits has really become a race for utilizing them to attract and retain clients. And so the really big driver of this in the beginning was, we had FMLA and then we had state leaves. We had the original statutory states, which offered mandatory state disability and paid family leave. And now we have integrated paid family medical leave programs. But the real genesis of what employers were doing around benefits was around paid parental leave. That was really the big driver. And several years ago when this started, and this was pre-COVID, this was considered a really rich and desired benefit. Not a lot of companies were doing it. I mean, a lot of the large tech companies, some of the larger employers were offering paid parental leave. And every time a company put one out, it was a big press release. So-and-so company was offering 12 weeks or 20 weeks. And what we're seeing now is that paid parental leave is becoming more and more standardized. And it's almost an accepted benefit. And interestingly enough, with the younger generation, Generation Z, I think we're calling them, that is coming into the workforce, it's an expected benefit. And so it's interesting for employers because benefits like paid parental leave, paid sick time, paid time off, work-life balance benefits, those are becoming something that employers are really having to focus in on as to what they truly want to offer their employees, because it's not just a matter to say we're going to give you a title or we're going to give you X amount of money. Don't get me wrong, those are still important for a lot of people. But it's more, what are the benefits that you are going to give me in relation to this job to help me with my work-life balance?
And are you seeing employers create unique time off benefits now?
Yeah, we are. And it's interesting. Like I said, it started with paid parental leave, and then we started to see some ones that, you would hear about often. Like I'm seeing some companies create sabbatical leaves for employees who have been there for like 10 years. They're going to give them a month of paid time off just to recharge their batteries so that, they don't go somewhere else. So that's a big uptick. The one that we're really starting to see is family care leave.
Okay.
And it's interesting because if you take a look, and I think this is really being driven by the number of states that are offering statutory paid family medical leave benefits that allow you to care for family members. But what we're noticing is that given the economy and everything that's going on today, is you're starting to see a lot of multi-generational households. So employees, they may be starting their own families and needing to bond and take care of their own children. But then you have employees that are also now having to care for their elderly parents. And so while parental leave is still very important, it's as the workforce ages or moves beyond the, 25 to 35 demographic that typically is when an employee would start a family. Not always, but that's typically where we see it. Now you have employees that are saying, hey, that's great. Parental leave is out there, but I don't need it to bond with my children. I need parental leave to take care of my parents. And so we're starting to see an evolution of parental leave either becoming a paid family leave or a separate family care benefit being offered in the market.
And for employers that may be thinking about this, we've got FMLA and we have state and maybe even city leaves, and now we're talking about caregiver leaves. So from a practical perspective, can you sort of describe maybe and spell out a few of these leaves? Do they
Yeah.
combined into one, or do they
Well,
have
they
multiple
can.
ones? So
Yeah.
tell us
And
some ways that might work.
Yeah, and the alphabet soup of leaves that are out there. So you have FMLA, PPL, PFML, pretty much any acronym that is out
Well,
there,
that
we
means
have it.
nothing to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Most
So
of
let's
us.
start. Let's start with the basics. You have the FMLA, the Family Medical Leave. So this is kind of the granddaddy of leaves. It's been around
Okay.
since '93,
Yep.
and in essence, that provides job and benefit protection. And the most common use of FMLA is for an employee's own serious health condition. But there are other conditions that you can use. The one we're seeing for family care benefits. So obviously you have bonding, which is your paid parental leave. Those will run concurrent. But you have care of a family member. And family member defined under FMLA is parent, spouse, or child. And when you take a look at that, an employee can go and request up to 12 weeks, just like they could for any other qualifying condition, to take care of their family. So that protects their job, meaning I can go ahead and do this, but it doesn't provide them any income protection. So then we drop down to the state level for statutory states. So you had the original states, California, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Hawaii, etc., that offered these income replacement benefits. They were typically separated. You had a disability benefit for your own serious condition, and then you had a paid family benefit that was traditionally used for bonding, but it could also be used for a care of a family member.
Okay.
And when we take a look at the data, bonding is still the number one use for paid family leave across all states. But interestingly enough, states that offer paid family leave, including the newer states that are coming online, the number two usage is for care of a family member, and specifically care for a parent.
Okay.
And so, you have employees, and right now there's about 13 states. There's going to be more coming in the next couple of years that we're actively working on. But if you take a look at those, an employee could go out for FMLA, which would protect their job, and then they could go in and they could take the state benefit, assuming they haven't done for anything else, to be paid for statutory paid family leave. Then you drop down to the employer policies, which is typically paid parental leave is usually 100% of the employee's salary. And this is important to note because a statutory program doesn't pay 100%. It's like a short-term disability benefit. It pays a percentage of your income, but it doesn't fully cover it. And so now employers we're starting to see more are offering true family care benefits, or they're modifying their paid parental leave benefits to expand to include family care so that an employee, especially in a multi-generational household, could choose, do I want to use my, let's just say 12 weeks of 100% pay to bond with my newborn child, or do I need to use that to care for my elderly parent? And that's where I really think the evolution of this is going to go. Because, let's be honest, you have these generational workers who have great institutional knowledge. They are highly sought after. They're hard to recruit. They're, these are the people who, know how the trains run on time. And to lose that institutional knowledge it can be detrimental to a company sometimes. And for a company to sit there and say, hey, we're going to treat all these young workers to this paid parental leave benefit, but we're not going to do anything for generational workers. Yeah. You run the risk of losing all that institutional knowledge. So I think as employers start to look at this, you need to kind of take a look at where the demographics of your population is. I mean, if you have a very young workforce, you may not need to look at a family care benefit. Mm-hmm. But if you've got a mid to older level workforce, and offering a 12-week or 20-week bonding program for a newborn child may or may not appeal to your population. Or if you have a heavy male demographic population, that may not appeal at all. So there's a lot of factors, but I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see more and more employers as this is going to be the next big benefit.
Yeah. And does it vary if it's a statutory state?
It does, because, if you're in a state, and I'll just pick on California, for example, which has been around for a long time. If you're in the state of California,
or the benefit?
Well, the benefit in California, both. They've both been around. I think they both started about the same time. I'm just going to be honest with you. California was one of the first ones out there. I mean, and this is what most people don't realize is although paid family leave has only been relative in the last couple of years, statutory disability benefits have been around since the 1940s. So, I mean, these benefits aren't new. Yeah. But when you take a look at paid family leave benefits, which came a little bit later, California has a very rich benefit that they offer out there, and the benefit varies by state. But what you're seeing is you're seeing a discrepancy. And, so if you've got a diverse workforce, and we all do these days because COVID kind of split everybody all over the country. And so now, you relocated to wherever. And if you have employees in multiple states, and I'll pick my home state here of Arizona, we don't have any statutory income benefits, okay? We sit right next to California, which does. So if we've had a lot of companies relocate from California to Arizona, and so when those workers come over, they're like, well, wait, we got these paid benefits when we were California employees, and now I don't get them here in Arizona. So, company XYZ, if you want to keep me, you need to create something. So I think employers do have to pay attention to that, because these programs get a lot of traction in the news. I know every time that we start a new Congress, there's legislation to push at a federal level, which I don't think is ever going to happen, just for a variety of reasons. So you're seeing more and more states. Like this year alone, we have 4 new states that are pushing paid family medical leave legislation on top of the ones that have already been passed. And if all 4 of these passed, we would have roughly 21 states. So we're almost at we're almost at a 50-50 split of states that offer it and don't, where that starts to become the tipping point. So for an employer, if you're looking at recruiting or retaining talent in non-statutory states, trust me, the workers know that these employees in these states get these benefits. And it's like, well, if my company's not going to offer it because I don't have to offer it in Arizona, but this other company is, you know what? It's worth it to me to go get that benefit. And so I think companies are going, just like paid parental leave. Everybody resisted it at first, and now it's just everybody's rolling it out. It's a common benefit. And that's what I think is going to happen with family care here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, thanks for that additional information. Next, what other benefits are hot on employers' minds?
It's interesting. Voluntary benefits are a very big thing, and it's a tough time for employers right now, because you got to have the greatest benefits that's out there. And so what we're starting to see is, and this has been around for a while, but I mean, you've always, when you go through and do your open enrollment, you want to enroll for accidental, insurance, hospital indemnification, critical illness. It's interesting because we all see these benefits and then you forget about them, but they're coming out of your check. But we're starting to see higher utilization, especially with the younger generations. But what's interesting is the type of benefits we're starting to see. So trends I'm starting to see is, instead of promoting into a 401k plan, which is a staple, everybody offers it. I mean, it's considered a staple benefit. We're now starting to see, do you want to go into the 401k program or do you want to go into the student loan payoff program? That's a hot trend benefit that's out there. I often joke about this one, but it's a serious benefit, pet insurance. When I looked at a study a couple of years ago, it was like the tops, 5 or 6, 7% of employers were now offering pet insurance as a voluntary benefit, and it's rapidly picking up steam because they're just, a lot of people look at pets as their own children, and pet care can be expensive. And so I think that's one. The other things that I'm starting to see, and again, it's all around this family care benefit. Being able to find caregivers for for your family members, daycare for children. Companies are offering, I'm starting to see articles around about companies about how do we help you set up a 529 education plan for their children. And not to sound morbid here, but companies are really starting to push their legal benefits, because it's like, do you have will prep? And, if you talk to a younger employee, well, what do I need a will for? I'm in my 20s. Well, you have a family now. You've owned a house. What are you going to do with your estate? So these are the type of benefits that I think, and here's the key thing. Employers are not paying for these benefits. These are employee paid benefits. But employers are starting to play around with those to say which benefits are going to best work for my population. And they're starting to push back on, some of the voluntary players to say, hey, we're paying all this money for these voluntary benefits, but we're seeing very low utilization. So if, and I'll just pick one, say critical illness. If we're not seeing a high utilization for critical illness, do we really need to offer this benefit? And so we're starting to see a trend where we're seeing carriers and TPAs like Sedgwick, which are, how do we better integrate those voluntary benefits into the disability and leave process to ensure that employees who are paying these benefits are getting them, because you don't want to offer a benefit that you never get to use. And, in some of these, we hope you never have to use them.
Yes,
But
certainly, certainly. But if somebody
exactly,
has pet insurance and they paid for it, what's their utilization? And
right.
are they getting
And
the value? Or if they're offering the through auto insurance or others, let's see what they're
yeah,
using and make sure it's still the right benefit to have. And I love the financial aspects. When we think of the trifecta of health with
right.
physical, mental health and well-being and financial health, and many people haven't had parental support with that or a
Hmm.
background on financial health. And so to be able to help one understand investing, paying off debt, avoiding debt, budgeting, I think all of that's fantastic.
Yeah, and you mentioned mental health. That's the other big trend we're seeing is, all employers, well, I won't say all, but the majority of employers will have some type of employee assistance program. And I think they're good programs. They're out there. But given the explosive need of mental health, if you take a look at Centric's
Yeah.
book of business, mental health is the number 2 claim type behind pregnancy. 5 years ago, that did not happen. It's just constantly going, and it is outpacing other claim diagnostic types. And the problem is that there is a lack of healthcare providers in the mental health field. It's just the demand is overwhelming, the support structure to do that. Other benefits we're trying to see is how can companies provide early intervention or program support for claimants who have mental health. And the good news is that the stigma regarding mental health is starting to lessen among all age demographics.
Wonderful.
There was a time where, if you had a mental health issue, you didn't mention it to any, because you didn't want to be tagged as that person. But, I think with the millennials and, Generation Z, it has become to be more accepted that, hey, you have to take this holistic good, and there's your physical health, but your mental health is just as important, because if you're stressed or you're distracted, it could lead to injury, it could lead to absenteeism. So employers are really starting to invest as a benefit, as we need to offer an EAP solution, but we need to go beyond that. And so it'll be interesting to see where the industry goes with that in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And now with telehealth
Hmm.
visits with mental health, so mental telehealth, there's texting between patients and providers, which is really helpful in that just in time. There's in person, there's group. They're doing a lot more, I think, to make sure
Absolutely.
that employees understand there's a variety of benefits and ways you can engage, which is really
It
fantastic.
is. It's good to see. It is long overdue in the industry, and it makes me smile knowing that, hey, we're trying to look beyond the disability to how can we help pre and what are the benefits. So that it's great to see, and it'll be I'm really looking forward to see where it goes in the next couple of years.
Well, I really want to thank you for joining me today, David, and I hope the audience learned a lot about leaves and at least what's out there, what's coming, and if they're in the HR space, what they might want to consider for the future.
Thank you.